Hey guys, Postron here, and today let's talk about two builds that we made today on stream, just kind of build for Heist, basically. Both of them are kind of like off meta or whatever, so they're not meant if you just... This is not meant as a recommendation, basically. This is just meant if you want to play something fun, right? If you want to play something to win the gauntlet or whatever, look elsewhere, right? Toxic Rain, Poisonous Concoction, Seismic Trap, they're all out there, right? But this is more of like a fun approach. I don't really like leveling the same build over and over again in different challenges, so I want to play something new. So we just made something fun on twitch.tv/Palstron. So if you want to check this out, we're actually going to live stream the start of the Endless Heist event. So check it out tomorrow when it starts. I'll be on like half an hour before. But yeah, let's get into the builds. So first up, what I will play if I go for a softcore trade in the end, like I'm still contemplating between softcore trade and softcore solo self-hunt. But if I go trade, I'm probably going to go with this version of my Shield Charge Ignite build. If you don't know that build, I made this in 3.15. It was really, really fun, but had the downside of really bad single target, which in Heist is not really a problem. And something that is very good in Heist is Ignite Prolif, since you want to clear packs efficiently and you just want to move, which is also something that Shield Charge excels at. There's two problems kind of to figure out with this build. Number one is defenses. My build in 3.15 was not really ready for a 3.16 environment. Also, Heist has some pretty one-shotty mechanics, so we have to make it a little bit more tanky. And number two, and that might just be a problem with Heist in general, is I don't know if Shield Charge is the best in Heist because there's a lot of doors and things you can get stuck at. But what I remember from this build is it's actually not that big of a deal. Also, your movement speed isn't that bad, so even if you have to go around corners, it shouldn't really be that much of a problem. And Shield Charge still is kind of this, I don't know, you're always on the move, which is what you want for Heist. But I'll tell you why we kind of got into this build, and that's because somebody in chat actually talked about the Ashes of the Sun Driftwood Club, which is one of the uniques you get at the start of the event. Now, the reason this one is so interesting is, number one, if you're Shield Charge Ignite, you're not doing damage from your weapon. The damage comes from your shield, right? Meaning that your weapon is kind of just a stat stick, right? Usually you would have to think about getting a lot of fizz damage, then converting that to fire damage or whatever. But with a shield, like with Shield Charge, the armor of your shield determines your damage, which means you have space on your main hand for some wacky ass weapons, right? For example, this one here has no damage, which is its downside. It's like terrible, right? It's a starter weapon. It has 30% chance to ignite, which is really nice, burning damage. But then it has this really crazy mod here, 500% increased ignite duration on enemies. Now, usually this is kind of a bait, right? Because it might seem good, but you already have a lot of duration. You're not going to wait for 20 seconds for your ignite to run out, right? While it's nice to have a lot of corpses on the ground with your proliferation that will never run out, right? It's cute, but it's not that good, right? But number one, as I said, you do your damage comes from your shield, so this not having any damage doesn't matter. But number two is we're in a Heist event and replica uniques are actually accessible, and one of the uniques that can use this the most is Replica Emberwake. So usually for Ignite builds, Replica Emberwake is kind of a noob trap, right? So for example, if I showed you this, Ashes of the Sun gone, Replica Emberwake, if I just have one Replica Emberwake on, the duration of my Ignite, while my DPS will look really good, the Ignite duration is going to be on less than a second, like less than half a second here actually. So it's not really playable, it just looks good in PoB, right? This item is a big noob trap usually. But the thing is, you can actually make two of them work if you have this weapon. So usually just not usable at all. But with this, you can actually use two of them, which is a huge damage multiplier, right? I don't even have a good roll here. This goes up to, I think, 45% faster. And you can make that even faster with Catalyst, if I remember correctly. So yeah, Replica Emberwake is actually accessible because we're in Heist, and this kind of completely negates its downside. Not only that, but you can run as much faster as you want. You can run Daedian Dawn. You can run it from like medium cluster jewels on the tree, whatever you want, basically multiplying your damage. So if we go into calcs and actually look at our duration here, even though we have two Replica Emberwakes on and a lot of other sources of faster, we're still looking at around a 6-second ignite duration, which is just completely busted. And it's all thanks to this weapon right here. And the reason that's important for Heist is if you think about how Heist usually plays out, right? It is you're standing at the door and mobs are going to come at you around you. And if you kill stuff and the corpses actually stay there and the ignite still keeps prolifing, it kind of protects you, which is nice. But then at the same time, it's just nice to have a better clear overall. It also increases your damage, obviously, because your ignite ticks for longer. Stuff will die behind you while you're already gone, so you still get the EXP, which is also really important in a level 100 event. As for Ascendancy, we're actually going for a Chieftain this time around. Now, if you remember, my version that I did in 3.15 was actually Elementalist, but the main draw towards Elementalist was Shaper of Flames. And the thing is, we're not... The reason we went with Shaper of Flames in that build is we had a lot of physical as extra lightning, as extra cold, as extra chaos, right? And all of those would contribute to our Ignite with this, but it doesn't really matter here. We're not going to have the gear ever to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, in that case, Elementalist just kind of falls flat. The only big thing is that you actually get a lot of AoE, which is nice. But in the end, if you look at how the pathing goes, like there's so much pathing here that gives us nothing. Whereas this starting area has a lot of life, a lot of armor, and you don't want to die in Heist. So you would have to do all of this, just basically getting nothing on the way, right? Elemental focus just won't, elemental overload just won't ever happen realistically with this kind of crit, right? If you think about it. And we would also have to give up Resolute Technique. And if you look at this, we have 38% hit rate, which is abysmal. So we would have to get so much accuracy just to compensate. That elemental overload is just kind of weak. So the only thing you would get here is Acrimony. But yeah, this whole region would be completely useless. That's why I want to go for Chieftain if I go for this. Now, on top of that, what drew me towards Chieftain was that it has a good combo of offensive and defensive things. I actually, in the end, didn't go for Hinekora. Now, this might change again, because if I use Infernal Cry, I don't really need this. But even if I don't use Infernal Cry, this only, the Covered in Ash only works for rare and unique monsters, which we're not really going to boss. We're not going to have that many rares. So this is kind of like, you get a little bit of Leech, which is cute, but I don't even think this is worth it now. What definitely is going to be worth it is Ramako. It gives you chance to ignite, which is actually kind of annoying to reach. Gives you some fire, fire damage over time multiplier. Nagama, whose Flames Advance is huge, actually. Whenever it's up, that's a big damage bonus. But then we also have the defensive side of Tassalio, which is one of the craziest defense layers that you could have, right? Unaffected by Ignite, huge already. But then you also get 20% of Fizz damage from hits taken as fire damage. Absolutely massive, especially since this is a mod that you won't really get from gear realistically, unless you're like a few days in and you have a lot of exalts, right? You're probably not going to make items that have that mod, so that's huge against big Fizz hits. As well as that, the 100% fire res makes gearing a lot easier. As you know, there's no crafting bench, so just straight up getting that is huge. As well as that, usually taking this mastery can be sketchy, especially early, right? But the minus 30 Thyres doesn't really matter if you're a Chieftain, because you get the 100 there. So you just get straight up for 1 point, you get 20 fire dot multi without a downside, basically. On top of that, a little bit faster recovery helps with your region and stuff. And then we also have Valako, which gives us endurance charges, which is always nice, especially since we also get this 1 point max endurance charge for free. So I'll just quickly go over the build that we came up with, right? Since we're in trade, we are gonna have access to a large cluster, and we also want a medium cluster with Master of Fire. This one's really important because if you think about it, right, you can put in Wave of Conviction as much as you want. You're always on the go in Heist. There is no way you're going to apply Wave of Conviction while you're just moving. You just want to move, but you still want to have the exposure, and with Master Fire, that's just the easiest way to do that. And other than that, you just go for any large cluster. Obviously, POB is going to be down in the description, right? I'm going to just quickly hover over this. We stop up there, and basically what we're looking for is get our block a little bit up. Now, especially spell block is incredibly important in Heist. There's a lot of high damage, spiky spells getting thrown at you, and you obviously want to get your life up as much as possible. Since we don't have the crafting bench, you cannot really go for too much unrealistic gear, right? As you can see here, most of my gear has barely anything on it, and in terms of accuracy, basically the Resolute Technique here solves all of those problems. And yeah, so we also have endurance charges, but yeah, other than that, pretty cookie cutter. Like I said, I'll leave the link down in the description. And we're going for 50 block, 50 spell block. We're almost there here with Versatile Combatant. As for gem setups, this is pretty rudimentary, but yeah, we have Shield Charge together with LE Damage with Attack, Swift Affliction, Ignite Prolif, and Cruelty Inspiration. Now, the reason behind Cruelty is, number one, that you have the Mastery down here with increased effect of Cruelty, which is going to help it. Number two, we're not really bossing, so Cruelty should actually be at full effect a lot of the time. Just because your hit is quite big, we're not using deadly ailments or anything like that to reduce our hit damage. So It should be up all the time. You can always replace it if it doesn't work out, like I think it does. But Inspiration is on top to just reduce the mana cost a little. We also have a Replica Conqueror's Efficiency. Once again, Replica uniques are going to be accessible in trade. So that makes the mana a little bit easier, but it's not that necessary, right? Just a little bit of quality of life. As for the Cry setup, right? Either we go for Infernal Cry or Enduring Cry. I'm actually not sure right now. All I know is that you only want one and you want it to be instant because, once again, you're going to be on the go and you want to have one of those on left click to never really think about it. All you want to do is shield charge, shield charge. Now, as for other things like Blood Rage is nice to get some more attack speed. It's going to make the build feel a lot smoother. Blade Vortex is a simple cost when damage taken setup with Combustion. I actually want this at level 1, right? Yeah, at level 1. Just a setup to apply Combustion, because once again, we're not going to be Wave of Convictioning anything. We're just going to be shield charging. So it's going to probably be the easiest way to apply Combustion in general. And then at the end, in terms of auras, now I would say Determination is definitely a must-have. Defiance banner, I didn't really find a way in the end to put it in. I would love to get it. We're currently sitting at 37k. This would get us to 46k, which is very close to where the Molten Shell would actually be maxed. Let's actually put that in. I completely forgot about that. Val Molten Shell if you can, right? But Molten Shell in general, you want 50,000 armor to get full effect out of it, but you don't always have it. So that on top, and yeah. Then we have, as our offensive thing, we have Blasphemy Flammability. Now you might say to me, well, maybe I can get a Flammability on Hit Ring. But the thing is, I think I still prefer Blasphemy setup in this case, because if you think about it, the things you're hitting, obviously they're going to be cursed, but the things that are just around you and that get proliferated on, they won't be cursed, right? And this is actually quite a big deal, because against non-bosses, this has full effect, right? And most of the enemies are going to be non-bosses. So, yeah, should just be good overall. Herald of Ash just for a little bit more coverage, and just it's also a little bit more damage. You get the physical as extra fire damage. And in terms of leveling, since you actually get chance to ignite from this Driftwood Club, Shield Charge Ignite might actually be possible to level with. The problem is you will have to upgrade your shield all the time. You will have to get the armor on your shield up, otherwise you're going to lose a lot of base damage. So that might be a little bit too annoying. I don't exactly know. But what's cool about this is you can actually go for Avatar of Fire and 40% conversion before you get this Ascendancy, right? Even before that. Obviously, once you have this and you have the 50% conversion here, 50% conversion here, this is at least you have 90%, right? So at the start, the only weird thing is you only have 30% chance to ignite, but you can kind of circumvent that at least a little bit with getting combustion support, right? Another 25 chance to ignite. But yeah, until you get, for example, here, you get 15% chance to ignite, and then you can also path up here for now to get another 20% here. There's another 10% here. So until you get your items, you'll probably have to play around with that a little. If you do not have a 100% chance to ignite, it can get a little bit annoying. But yeah, what you can also do is, as your first Ascendancy, take Ramako, and that it's going to give you a chance to ignite. You just stay on 90% conversion until later you can then fully convert. But other than that, what you can always do is Earth Shadow leveling. I don't want to make this a leveling video. Look it up on YouTube, right? There's a lot of good sources out there from racers that are way better at leveling than I am. Also, if you're still not comfy at level 28, you can also go Armageddon Brand, right? You can go for Runebinder, or you cannot go for Runebinder and go for Armageddon Brand Ignite. Whatever you choose to, Armageddon Brand is pretty comfy. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to get this to work. You gotta have to be a little bit creative. I just wanted to share this build because Shield Charge Ignite was one of the most fun builds I've ever made. So overall, do I think this is gonna be good? I honestly don't know. I just think if I'm gonna play this, I would love it because I don't have much chance to play with this item, and I think it could be a perfect fit for Shield Charge Ignite. So if you want to try it out, you can try it out. Yeah, I cannot guarantee that it's going to be good. I cannot guarantee that it's going to be tanky enough, but it's definitely something that I'm looking towards. Now, the second build is my attempt at a solo self-found build, and it's a little bit more straightforward, and that is a KB Deadeye. So Kinetic Blast is always kind of had this problem that it's just really bad single target. So what you need is you need a clear setup, and then you need a single target setup with barrage or whatever, right? So that doesn't really jive if you have not that much gear, especially in solo self-found. You can just completely forget that. You're not going to be able to have enough damage to clear with a 4-link, right? So either you have to not go with Kinetic Blast and go for like Power Siphon, which has more inbuilt damage, or you try to make Kinetic Blast work. And that's exactly what I went for here. Now, the reason I think Kinetic Blast is actually pretty damn good in Heist is if you think about how confined the space is, we're kind of indoors, there's just walls everywhere, and when Kinetic Blast connects with a wall, it explodes, right? So one of the cool things, for example, about Deadeye is, number one, you have Ricochet. Now, not only that this is kind of a perfect fit for Kinetic Blast, you also get the chain obviously is huge, but projectiles have 30% chance to be able to chain when colliding with terrain, which is going to be a lot if you think about what kind of layouts you're going to have in Heist. So it's just very, very good in confined spaces. Number two is going to be endless munitions. The more projectiles, the better, right? You also get Tailwind, which is usually going to be quite hard to get on solo self-found, especially in Heist. And you get Focal Point, and Focal Point is incredibly good in Heist because everything's so confined. Once again, if something dies and the corpse stays on the ground, everything around that enemy does 25% less damage, right? So overall, Deadeye just a perfect fit. Now I'm just going to quickly go over the build, right? Once again, not a recommendation, just something I was thinking about. Is it going to be tanky enough? I don't know. We're going to talk about it. So number one, what I tried to get is 100% spell suppression, because one of the biggest hurdles to get by in Heist is actually not dying to spells. So spell suppression is just absolutely huge. And since I don't want to go Raider would also be a decent way to go for it, but we wouldn't get any more projectiles. We wouldn't get the chain, and it's really, really hard to get that. And I don't want to go like chain support or stuff like that. That would diminish your damage way too much. Now, number one, Point Blank is very, very good because of how confined everything is, once again. And then we go for all the efficient spell suppression here and up here. Other than that, just everything basically, movement speed, spell suppression, damage, life. You really want to grab as much life as you can because obviously you don't want to get one shot, right? And then we go up here. Now, the number one thing about this build is it has a lot of pathing, so it seems a little bit weird. But the thing is, that's just what Wonders have to do nowadays because we want to get up here to the Wonder Mastery. Number one, this is the most important one. Wand attacks fire an additional projectile. Now, usually wand builds have to use GMP, which is kind of awkward because when it comes to a little bit more tanky stuff, GMP just halves your damage basically, right? So as you can see here, we're actually not running GMP. We might introduce GMP back if we feel like it, but for now we didn't. And the reason for that is because we are Deadeye and we get 2 projectiles here and 1 projectile here. I feel like 4 projectiles is actually pretty good. It might still be in the end that we go with GMP just because we have more overlaps and it's more damage anyway. But for now, just having the option of not running GMP is actually huge. So this is number one. I think very obvious, more overlaps, more damage. But then number two, you also get this here. Increase the reductions to spell damage also applied to attacks while wielding a wand. Now, this is not needed if you hit a Crown of Ice. That makes things a lot easier. If you hit Crown of Ice, what you can do here is you can do attack and mana leech, and then you can remove these 2 points, which is also huge. But yeah, for now, we're going to do this. And one of the things also with, I guess you can also do accuracy, but probably not needed. This cluster is just really, really huge as well because you get a lot of pen. On top of that, since we're in Heist, all the on-kill effects actually go. We're not bossing, so if we get Power Charge on kill, that's going to be basically perma Power Charges up. Same with Blood Rage and Frenzy Charges, right? So in that sense, we can just go for Disciple of the Forbidden without having Power Charge on crit or anything like that. Also, the spell damage here gets converted to attack damage with the Wand Mastery or Crown of Ice, whatever you have, right? I'm not going to put in a Crown of Ice here because this is made kind of for solo self-found. The only thing I have in here is a Death's Rush, just in case we get it. It's not that rare, and it gives us Onslaught. But even if we go for a normal Coral Wing, not that much changes. Other than that, I guess some weird things. Now, whether you want Ghost Dance or not is going to depend on your gear. Right now, I'm full evasion gear. Even if you have like 400, 500 ES, definitely go for a Ghost Dance. It's going to be very, very nice. In that case, you probably also want to take these notes here, just for the 5 ES as well as the life. But yeah, that's just going to be up to you. In solo self-found, you can't really just pick and choose, right? One cluster you might be confused as well is One with Evil, and the one reason for this is we get Corrupted Blood immune. And if you know how annoying it is to get a Corrupted Blood Jewel, well, there you go. It is solved. And also this solves another problem, which is Chaos Res. You do not want to go around with negative Chaos Res in a Heist. So yeah, it just tackles a lot of problems. The 1 point Power Charge is huge. All the life we can get. The leech here, if you get it elsewhere, for example, if you have Crown of Ice, all you can do is just remove this, right? But yeah, go for spell suppression. If you don't get 100% spell suppression, it's going to be a lot more frightening. Now, the biggest thing with this build is obviously going to be big physical hits. So you could go for something like a Granite Flask on top to make it a little bit better. Overall, I'm not sure it's going to be that big of a deal because mostly you're going to die to big spell hits. But yeah, in general, I think this is very, very good. If you don't get to 100% spell suppression, it might be a little bit sketchy. In terms of items, now, number one thing is it basically depends on which one you get first, but either you go for a Piscator's Vigil or you go for a normal wand. And the way I went about it here is just like you throw on a Shrieking Essence is not a Deafening Essence, but if you get to a Shrieking Essence, either lightning or cold, fire is fine as well. In the end, it doesn't really matter as long as you can trigger your Trinity, right? And I just put on like shitty attack speed, shitty crit, and the second damage roll. Something like that, right? But if you get a Piscator's, that's not too bad at all. You're going to lose like 10% of your damage, and it's just pretty easy to get in general. Now, if you want to get this quickly, definitely open a lot of unique chests at the start, and then it should be fine. The Remnant of Empires is the shield that you get at the start. This is going to give us a lot of survivability as well as endurance charges, and as you know, endurance charges will help us a lot in terms of physical damage. Helmet, nothing here. I put on some spell suppression, I think here or here. It doesn't matter where you get it. I just put it on whatever. As well as that, life rolls basically everywhere is all you need. If you can get crit multi on your Emmy, if you can get a strength roll somewhere, also doesn't matter, but also nice in terms of damage. Death's Rush would be nice. You get the Chaos Res, you get accuracy, which is huge, you get life, and you get this Onslaught on Kill, which is pretty premium because we won't be able to get it from other sources mostly. Normal ring, normal belt. Now you can also go for a Prism Wave, but then you lose quite a bit of health. And as for jewels, I just went with very generic stuff. Obviously, the best mods would be attack speed with wands. I don't have to tell you about it. And then everything with crit multi would be huge. But this is kind of the most realistic thing I think I came up with. In terms of skills, once again, this is a complete template. I don't exactly know how it's going to play out without GMP. Maybe you want to edit and replace something. I guess you would replace LE damage with attacks. But overall, what I'm thinking about right now is Kinetic Blast, Added Cold, Added Lightning. Now, Added Cold, Added Lightning might not be the best support gem depending on how much flat damage you actually get on your wand. If you get like a really good wand, like a better one than this, then you could probably replace one of those for a GMP. But if you're, for example, running a Piscator's, which has like no damage, right? No flat damage, you definitely need that flat damage. So you decide. I put both on here. It's going to make balancing Trinity a lot easier as well, which is here, right? LE damage with attacks, increased crit damage. Now, I don't think you're going to get to enough crit multi without the support, so I just put it here. If you for some reason have gear that actually allows you to get over 400% crit damage, reassess. It might actually not be the best support, right? Definitely don't go for Conk Effect. Conk Effect is a big trap, as well as LE Focus. Those are just not worth it. You will have less overlaps overall. Now, in terms of leveling, I'm pretty sure that I do not want to go KB before I have a wand that's at least decent, or I have a Piscator's, one of two. So until then, I will just go with Poisonous Concoction. Now, in terms of Poisonous Concoction, we won't really be going for poison. I'm pretty sure we don't have enough regrets to do that. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to start here and just go hit-based with Poisonous Concoction. It's not a problem, right? You go through the attack speed, proj damage, and until you're here, you already have a lot of damage. Now, the good thing about Poisonous Concoction is that it has a lot of innate base damage. So even if you don't get to skill its poison that much, it's going to be completely fine just with the hit damage. Just avoid the LE stuff for now, right? Because obviously you're going to do chaos damage, but everything goes in terms of crit, in terms of increased damage, projectile damage. They have very similar tags. The only thing you have to look out for is not to take any elemental scaling. But yeah, overall, this is what I'm most likely going to play if I go solo self-found. The one concern I have with this, so number one, I think this build is going to be very fun to play, but the one concern I have with is it might be too weak against physical hits. We don't really have too much weight. We could go here and go for Iron Reflexes in the end, go for more block, right? But the problem is, then we would have to cut this whole region, right? And if you look at this, we're literally losing like half our damage, which is just, that is outrageous, right? So whether it will have enough damage, I don't know. Don't risk it if you don't wanna. I'm probably gonna do it, and if I fail, I fail. But yeah, I just wanted to present you these two builds because we made them on stream and they seemed kind of fun. I don't want to play Toxic Rain for the 10,000th time. But that's it for the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, subscribe. As always, big shout out to my Twitch subscribers and my Patreons. You make videos like this possible. Thank you so much. And yeah, once again, please, not a recommendation. I'm just going to say it over and over again. This is just some fun I wanted to have for the Heist event. So we're going to see whether I play solo self-found or not. But yeah, since I still don't have a slogan, see you next time.